Okay, we're going to talk about veneer wood for fingerboards. I got a lot of people asking me about it, so I'm going to make a little short video on veneer. This is the wood, this is the plywood. It's called veneer and it's for fingerboards. Finger decks, to make your very own finger deck. Okay, this is mine. I make my finger decks 5 plies thick. It takes 5 plies and they're really stiff and hard. See how hard that is? That's stiff. So you want good popping, make them stiff. Okay, here's a couple that I do with dark wood on the belt. And this is what it looks like when you pull it out of my mold. When you pull it out of my mold, it looks like that. So, and it's pretty stiff too. So you can make it as skinny or as wide as you want, really, as soon as it comes out of my mold. Okay, so anyways, let's get to the wood. Okay, it's called veneer, and it's got, the wood has grain on it, so you just got to figure out what direction you want to put your grain when you make your decks. So I call this long grain, and it's long grain because, you know, the lines go the long ways on the plywood. Okay, so I call it long grain. Okay, and this one I call short grain because the lines go crossways. Okay, short grain. When you make a deck, when I make my decks, I put long grain on top, probably all the time. But you can put the short grain on top. But we're going to do it the way I do it right now so you understand. Okay, so I take the long grain, and then I glue it, and then I take the short grain, and I glue it. Then I take the long grain, I glue it, boom. And I take the cross grain, put it on there, and then take the long grain and put it on there, okay? So it goes long grain, cross grain, long grain, cross grain, long grain. And the reason for doing that is to make sure it stays stiff. And that's why you get it all nice. That's why these are so stiff, is because you put the wood one way, then the other way, then one way again, and the other way, and back and forth. Okay, that's what makes everything so stiff after you glue it. Now, if you put all of them the same, if they're all the same, like if you had all long grains, all 5 long grains, you'd be able to do this to the wood. Maybe not that easy, but it would be flexing just like that. Okay, so you got to go long grain, cross grain, long grain, cross grain, long grain, cross grain. Okay? Okay, now I sell colored veneer, and all the veneer I sell is long grain. But starting next week, I'm going to start doing cross grain, and that's how I'm going to call it. It's going to be either red stain long grain veneer, or it's going to be red stain cross grain veneer. Okay, and that's how you're going to tell. So when you buy it, you know how to do it. Okay, so anyhow, just remember, long grain, the lines are going the long way. Cross grain is going the short way. And another way to just figure out that, because when you get some grains, look at this grain. When you look at this grain, you go, what the heck is that going on there? Because that looks like it's long grain, right? But it's not. It's short grain. Because look, check it out. You take it, you can bend it like this, and you bend it like this, and it doesn't want to bend. Okay, now this is a cross grain. Cross grain bends like this. Here, I'll show you. This is long grain. Okay, long grain. Long grain likes to bend like this. Long grain loves to bend like that. Now cross grain loves to bend like this. Okay, like this. And this guy, if you look at this guy, you just go, whoop, that's cross grain. Okay, now the way I tell, that you can tell, okay, let's take a piece of short grain. Here's the short grain. You take your 2 thumbs, stick your 2 thumbs together, and try to bend it. Don't bend it hard because you'll break it. Just try to bend it. And see how it's not flexing? It's not flexing at all, okay? So that means it's going cross grain. Now you go to here and you do it, and look at that. Boom. That's cross grain. Same with the long grain. Long grain will do the opposite. Long grain, you take it, and you take it right here, take your fingers, stick them together. Long grain will bend that way, but it won't bend this way. You stick your fingers together and see the tension? There's a tension there, it won't fold. This way, it folds easy. Okay? So you get some weird pieces sometimes like this, and you go, okay, and you go, oh, see, I broke it. So you can't bend too hard. So it doesn't want to bend. Stick your 2 thumbs together, and it doesn't want to bend, but it will bend this way, okay? And you just got to make sure you put all the wood that bends in the one direction in the right pile. Okay? Okay. Alright, that's pretty tough, and you'll get some wood that's even worse than this one. That'll bend both ways, almost. It'll bend both ways easy. You just got to figure out which way it bends the easiest to figure out the wood. Okay? I know that's kind of confusing, but that's the best way I can explain it. So anyhow, just remember, you go cross grain, or you go long grain, cross grain, long grain, cross grain, long grain. Okay? And you'll be safe, and your boards will be nice and stiff. Just make sure the grain's going opposite every layer you put on your decks. And you can put four plies, 5 plies, how many plies you like. It's up to you. And another thing, if you do have a piece of veneer that's cool looking, because some of the exotics veneers will bend both ways and they're really flimsy, well, just take your regular veneer, like your maple, and go long grain, cross grain, long grain, cross grain. And if you want to show off the nice piece of wood, you put that one on the bottom, and it should work out fine too. Okay, that's it. Just remember, long grain, okay, and cross grain. Okay, that's all I can. If you got any questions, just ask them, okay? And I'll try to explain it better than this, even though this is pretty hard to explain. All right, have fun.